a powerful judge, a young black boy. A game of truth or lie. It starts as a cruel joke, an attempt to humiliate the kid in front of the entire courtroom. But what no one knows, this so-called nobody has an IQ that could shake the entire legal system. The judge laughs at first, confident in his power. But as the boy starts talking, the laughter stops. By the end of the trial, the judge isn't just embarrassed, he's exposed. A cold, imposing courtroom. The wooden gavel slams down like a gunshot, echoing across the silent room. At the front, presiding over the case, sits Judge Matheson, a man whose name alone carries power. His sharp blue eyes scan the courtroom with amusement, his lips curling into a smirk. He's in control here. He always is. Across the room stands Jamal Carter, a 16-year-old black teenager, small in stature but with an intense, unreadable gaze. He stands alone. No parents in sight, no high-priced lawyer to protect him. Just a tired, uninterested public defender flipping through notes like they mean nothing. The charge? Grand larceny. The punishment? 10 years minimum. Judge Matheson leans forward, tapping his fingers against the bench like a man bored with his prey. He glances at the audience. Reporters, law students, city elites, all waiting for another case to be crushed under his ruling. And then, the judge does something unexpected. He chuckles. Judge Matheson, before I pass sentencing, let's do something different. Let's play a game, a little, pauses for effect, truth or lie. A few in the audience laugh. The prosecutor smirks. The public defender doesn't even look up. Jamal, though, he doesn't flinch. Judge Matheson continues, voice dripping with condescension. Judge Matheson, you tell me something, anything at all, and I decide whether it's true or not. If I'm right, we move forward. If I'm wrong, grinning, maybe I reconsider your case. The room hums with amusement. It's a joke, a cruel joke, a way for a powerful man to humiliate a kid before slamming the gavel on his future. Jamal looks around. The laughter, the smirks, the eyes that don't see him as anything more than a statistic. He tilts his head, exhales slowly, then smiles. Jamal. All right, Judge, let's play. Silence. The judge raises an eyebrow. He wasn't expecting that. Jamal lifts his chin slightly. His voice is calm, steady, like he knows something no one else does. Jamal, I never stole the watch. Pauses, letting it sink in. But the real thief. His eyes flick to the other side of the room. Jamal. He's sitting in this courtroom right now. Gasps. The judge's smirk fades. The audience leans forward. Even the public defender looks up now. A whisper ripples through the courtroom. A joke just turned into something far more serious. Judge Matheson's fingers tap against the bench. Faster this time. He clears his throat. Judge Matheson. All right then, Carter. Who, exactly, are you accusing? Jamal inhales, locks eyes with someone across the room. And then he points. Jamal. Him. The entire courtroom erupts. The courtroom is in chaos. Murmurs turn into full-blown whispers. Reporters scribble furiously. The judge's gavel slams down, once, twice, 3 times. Judge Matheson. Silence. The noise dies down, but the energy in the room has shifted. This isn't just a sentencing anymore. This is a spectacle. Jamal Carter doesn't move. His finger remains pointed. The man on the receiving end? Marcus Lane. The prosecution's star witness. Marcus, a store security guard, goes stiff in his seat. He looks around, like he's expecting someone to step in, to laugh, to tell him this is a joke. But no one does. Jamal's voice cuts through the air like a knife. Jamal, you said you saw me steal the watch. Marcus Lane shifts uncomfortably. Jamal, you swore under oath you saw me take it, that you watched me run out the store. A beat. Jamal, but there's a problem with that, Marcus. The judge narrows his eyes. Judge Matheson. What are you playing at, Carter? Jamal finally lowers his hand. Turns to the judge. Jamal. I'm not playing at anything, sir. I'm just following the rules of the game. Matheson's jaw tightens. Jamal inhales deeply. He looks around the room, really taking it in. The rich lawyers, the prosecutors with their expensive suits, the reporters waiting for a headline. They all think they know who he is. A black kid with no money, no connections, no future. They have no idea. Jamal Carter sits on the floor of a tiny, dimly lit apartment. Law books surround him. Not toys, not video games. Books. Thick, intimidating law books marked with sticky notes. He flips through a Supreme Court ruling, muttering case law under his breath. Every night for the past 4 years, this has been his life. Why? Because his father is in prison for a crime he didn't commit. Because his mother works 2 jobs just to keep the lights on. Because when Jamal was 12, he watched a judge, a man just like Matheson, smirk while sentencing his father to 25 years. And Jamal made a decision that day. He wasn't going to be another statistic. He was going to beat them at their own game. He started studying the law harder than any kid had ever studied anything. Case files, Supreme Court rulings, witness psychology. His mind became a weapon. Jamal locks eyes with Judge Matheson. His voice is steady. Jamal. The store had 4 security cameras. The footage from 3 of them was shown in court. A pause. The courtroom leans in. Jamal. Why didn't we ever see the 4th one? The prosecutor shifts. The public defender stiffens. Judge Matheson's fingers tap against the desk. Judge Matheson. What are you suggesting? Jamal finally turns back to Marcus Lane. Jamal. I'm suggesting that the missing footage shows the truth. Murmurs explode again. Marcus turns red. The prosecutor sweats. And for the first time, Judge Matheson doesn't look amused. This game of truth or lie just got very, very real. The courtroom is no longer laughing. What started as a joke, a powerful judge humiliating a teenage defendant, has flipped. Now, every eye is locked on Jamal Carter. Judge Matheson leans back, tapping his fingers faster now. He doesn't like this. He's losing control. Marcus Lane, the prosecution's star witness, shifts uncomfortably in his seat. His mouth opens, but no words come out. Judge Matheson. Mr. Lane, do you care to respond? Marcus wipes his forehead. He's sweating now. The prosecutor, a middle-aged man named Gregory Holloway, quickly steps in. His voice is smooth, confident, but there's a crack in it now. Prosecutor Holloway. Objection, Your Honor. This is a waste of the court's time. The security footage provided was… Jamal cuts him off. Jamal. Was incomplete, and you knew it. Gasps ripple through the courtroom. The judge's eyes snap to Jamal. Judge Matheson. You don't interrupt in my courtroom, Carter. Jamal holds his ground. Jamal. I thought we were playing your game, Your Honor. Truth or lie? The room is dead silent. Jamal steps forward, voice calm, but with the confidence of a seasoned lawyer. Jamal. The 4th camera's footage wasn't shown in court because it doesn't match Marcus Lane's testimony. Prosecutor Holloway. That's speculation. Jamal. Then show the footage. All eyes turn to Holloway. He pauses. Jamal lets the silence stretch. Then, Jamal. I'll tell you why you won't. Because the 4th camera shows that I never touched that watch. The courtroom erupts again. Judge Matheson bangs his gavel. Once, twice, 3 times. Judge Matheson. Enough. But the damage is done. Doubt has taken root. Jamal is inside the store, browsing. The watch case isn't even open. Behind him, Marcus Lane watches him closely. Marcus nudges a security officer and mutters something. The officer nods and steps away. And then, a rich white teenager, wearing designer sneakers and a smug grin, reaches into the case, swipes the watch, and pockets it. Marcus Lane? He doesn't say a word. Instead, he turns toward Jamal. Marcus Lane looks like he wants to disappear. Jamal lets the silence stretch before delivering the next blow. Jamal. Funny thing about store security cameras. They don't just disappear. Someone has to delete the footage. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you, Mr. Lane? Marcus stiffens. His hands ball into fists. Judge Matheson's jaw tightens. This is getting out of control. His control. Judge Matheson. Enough speculation, Carter. If you had proof, your lawyer would have presented it. Jamal smirks. The judge just gave him the perfect setup. Jamal. That's the thing, Judge. I do have proof. Gasps. Even the court stenographer stops typing. Judge Matheson. What? Jamal reaches into his pocket. The tension in the room is thick enough to cut with a knife. He pulls out a USB drive. Jamal. This drive contains an email from the store's security company, confirming that footage from the fourth camera was deleted manually. Judge Matheson goes still. Jamal slowly turns to Marcus Lane. Jamal, and guess whose login credentials were used? Marcus's face drains of color. For the first time, he looks terrified. Jamal tilts his head. Jamal, let me help you out, Marcus. Truth or lie? The courtroom is frozen. The USB drive sits in Jamal's palm, gleaming under the harsh courtroom lights. No one speaks. Even the air feels heavier. Judge Matheson stares at it, his fingers gripping the bench so tightly his knuckles turn white. The usual smugness on his face. Gone. Across the room, Marcus Lane looks like a man trapped. His mouth opens and closes, searching for a lie, an excuse, anything. But the sweat trickling down his temple betrays him. Jamal tilts his head. Jamal, you know what's on here, don't you, Marcus? Marcus swallows hard. The room waits, and then he snaps. Marcus Lane. I was just following orders. The courtroom gasps. Judge Matheson's face hardens. His tapping fingers stop. Jamal. Whose orders, Marcus? Marcus's eyes dart around the room. He hesitates, just for a second, but it's enough. Jamal. Truth or lie? Silence. And then Marcus folds. Marcus Lane. The judge. A thunderous explosion of voices fills the courtroom. Reporters scramble to take notes. The public defender's mouth drops open. The prosecutor looks sick. But Jamal, he doesn't even blink, because he already knew. Jamal hunched over a computer, scrolling through old case files. He'd spent hours searching for a pattern, something to connect Judge Matheson to wrongful convictions. And then he found it. A sealed case from 15 years ago. A black teenager, same age as Jamal, falsely accused. Same courtroom, same judge, same star witness, Marcus Lane. That boy had been sentenced to 10 years, later exonerated. But the judge, no consequences. Until now. Judge Matheson slams his gavel so hard it nearly cracks. Judge Matheson. This is outrageous. But his voice shakes. Jamal, still calm. Jamal, that boy you sentenced 15 years ago? He was innocent, just like me. Gasps. The courtroom erupts again. Judge Matheson's mask is slipping. The powerful, untouchable judge, now just a man who looks afraid. Jamal slowly steps forward. Jamal, you played your game for years, Judge, sending kids who look like me away while protecting the ones who look like you. Matheson's eyes flick to the bailiff, a silent plea for help. But the bailiff doesn't move. No one does. Jamal, the question is, now that the truth is out, who's going to save you? The courtroom is in chaos. Judge Matheson's face is drained of color. His power, his authority, his reputation, all of it is crumbling right in front of him. The sound of reporters whispering, fingers clacking against keyboards, cameras clicking, fills the room. The courtroom isn't just watching a case anymore, they're watching a reckoning. Judge Matheson grips his gavel, slams it down, his voice cracking as he shouts, Judge Matheson, this hearing is over. Bailiff, remove. Jamal, you sure about that, Judge? Matheson freezes. Jamal steps forward. His voice isn't loud, but it cuts through the noise like a blade. Jamal, because if you end this now, you better be ready to explain why. Holds up the USB drive. This evidence wasn't allowed in court. The prosecutor shifts uncomfortably. He's realizing the weight of this. If Matheson tries to silence Jamal now, he looks guilty, and the cameras are rolling. For the first time, Prosecutor Holloway looks at Judge Matheson like he's a liability. He clears his throat, his polished courtroom confidence slipping. Prosecutor Holloway, Your Honor, perhaps we should hear him out. Murmurs spread. Jamal's expression doesn't change. He already knew the prosecutor would switch sides the moment it benefited him. Judge Matheson glares at Holloway. The betrayal is clear, but Holloway isn't protecting the judge anymore. He's protecting himself. Judge Matheson leans forward, desperate now. Judge Matheson, this is all nonsense. You expect me to take the word of a... Catches himself, but it's too late. Jamal smiles. Jamal, a what, Your Honor? Matheson goes silent. He knows if he says what he was about to say, it's over. Jamal lets the silence stretch. Then, he lands the final blow. He turns to the crowd. Jamal, for years, He's judged people like me before we even walked into this courtroom. He thought he could humiliate me today, thought he could play a game at my expense. Jamal turns back to Matheson. No fear. Jamal. But I wasn't the one who lost, was I? Dead silence. Judge Matheson is shaking. He opens his mouth, and nothing comes out, because for the first time in his life, he has no control. The courtroom is silent. Judge Matheson, once the most feared man in the room, now looks small behind his bench. His gavel, his robes, his reputation, none of it can protect him now. Jamal Carter stands tall, unshaken. The 16-year-old kid the system tried to break is staring down the most powerful man in the courthouse, and the judge knows he's already lost. Jamal turns to the prosecutor. Jamal, the law says that any evidence deliberately withheld by the prosecution violates my right to a fair trial. That alone is grounds for a mistrial. Prosecutor Holloway adjusts his tie. He's sweating. Jamal, so let's lay it out. The fourth security camera footage was deleted. He holds up the USB drive. Jamal, but thanks to the store's security logs, we know exactly who deleted it. Jamal turns to Marcus Lane. Jamal, truth or lie, Marcus? Marcus Lane is shaking. His hands clutch the edge of his seat like he's about to be sick. Then, he breaks. Marcus Lane, it wasn't me. I was told to do it. Jamal, by who? Marcus swallows hard. Sweat drips down his forehead. His voice is barely above a whisper. Marcus Lane. Judge Matheson. Gasps, shouting. Reporters scramble to write down every word. The court bailiff stiffens. Judge Matheson's face turns ghostly pale. Judge Matheson, this is absurd. This court is in contempt of my authority. But no one is listening. The prosecutor, his own ally just moments ago, stands up. Prosecutor Holloway. Given these troubling revelations, Your Honor, I move to withdraw all charges against the defendant. Jamal doesn't even flinch. He already knew this was coming. Judge Matheson stares at Holloway. His last shred of control, gone. Judge Matheson, you can't do this. I am the law in this courtroom. But Holloway, he just shakes his head. Prosecutor Holloway, not anymore. Dead silence. The judge's own words just became his undoing. Jamal steps closer to the bench. The entire courtroom watches. He locks eyes with Matheson. Jamal, funny, isn't it? You spent years handing out sentences. A pause. Jamal, now the only one left to be judged is you. Matheson's hands tremble. Jamal slowly slides the USB drive across the table. The media is already reporting this live. The bailiff steps forward. Bailiff, Judge Matheson, please step down from the bench. The judge doesn't move. He can't. His reign is over. The courtroom doors burst open. A group of federal investigators and ethics committee officials rush in. Their faces are grim, their badges gleaming under the fluorescent lights. The moment they step forward, the entire room knows. This is the end for Judge Matheson. The judge slowly rises. His once imposing figure now looks weak, small, like a man staring down his own destruction. Agent Walker, Judge Matheson, you are under investigation for judicial misconduct, obstruction of justice, and tampering with evidence. A collective gasp. Cameras flash. Reporters scramble to document every second. Matheson's jaw tightens. His hands tremble, but he clenches them into fists, trying to hold on to any last scrap of control. Judge Matheson, you don't know what you're doing. Agent Walker, no, Judge, we know exactly what we're doing. The bailiff steps forward. Bailiff, sir, you need to come with us. The gavel in Matheson's hand clatters to the desk. The symbol of his authority falls silent. For the first time in 20 years, he is no longer the one handing down sentences. He is the one being judged. The tension shifts. All eyes turn to Jamal. Judge Matheson is escorted out. His face ashen, humiliated, ruined. And then, Prosecutor Holloway, clearing his throat, addressing the court. Given today's shocking revelations, I officially move to dismiss all charges against Jamal Carter and request that his record be expunged immediately. Murmurs. More gasps. The backup judge, now overseeing the case, nods solemnly. Judge replacement, banging the gavel once. Case dismissed. Mr. Carter, you are free to go. The words echo through the courtroom. Jamal inhales sharply. For the first time in months, years even, he breathes. His hands unclench, his shoulders relax. He turns. The cameras are all on him now. Reporters rush forward. A journalist calls out, "Reporter, Jamal, how does it feel to outsmart one of the most powerful judges in the state?" Jamal pauses. Then, with the smallest smirk, he says, "Jamal, felt like a fair game to me." Laughter, cheers. Applause erupts in the courtroom. The 16-year-old kid who was supposed to be just another statistic? He just took down the most corrupt judge in the city. A news anchor reads from the teleprompter. News anchor. Serious tone. Breaking news. Former Judge Matheson is now facing formal charges following allegations of racial bias and judicial corruption. Sources confirm that multiple past cases are being reopened, with possible civil suits on the way. Cut to Judge Matheson sitting alone in his house. His career, over. His name, destroyed. He watches as his own face appears on the news. The headline, "Disgraced Judge Exposed by Teen Legal Prodigy." The camera zooms in on his shaking hands. For the first time, he knows what it feels like to be powerless. Jamal Carter steps out of the courthouse. The cool air hits his face, but this time, it feels different. He's free. A crowd has gathered. Reporters, law students, everyday people who followed the case. Some hold signs with his name. Others chant for justice. Camera flashes explode around him. Journalists shove microphones forward, all shouting at once. "Jamal, what's next for you? Are you planning to take legal action against the state?" Jamal doesn't answer right away. He just looks up at the courthouse behind him, the very system that tried to break him. A system he just beat. Jamal, now older, sits in a prestigious law school classroom, books stacked high. His eyes focused, absorbing every word. A professor calls on him. "Professor, Mr. Carter, what's the most important lesson in law?" Jamal thinks for a moment. Then, he smirks. Jamal, knowing the rules well enough to break them and rebuild them better. Jamal finally turns back to the crowd, the cameras, the people. He exhales. Then he speaks. "Jamal, I'm going to law school." The crowd erupts. Cheers, applause, chants of his name. Jamal smiles. Then, before walking away, he adds, "Jamal, and when I come back, I won't just be playing the game. I'll be rewriting the rules." 1 year later, a packed room. Law students, professors, and journalists sit in a grand lecture hall, watching the stage with anticipation. At the podium, Jamal Carter stands tall. His name is everywhere now. The teen genius who took down a corrupt judge. The boy who rewrote his own destiny. And tonight, he's the guest speaker at a prestigious law school event. Jamal adjusts the microphone. The crowd leans in, waiting. "Jamal, a year ago, I was on the other side of the courtroom. I wasn't a law student. I wasn't a scholar. I was just another kid the system had already judged before I even spoke a word." A hush falls over the room. Jamal. "And then, I started playing their game. And I won." Scattered applause. He pauses, eyes scanning the room. Jamal. "But let me be clear. One victory doesn't change the system. It only wakes it up." Murmurs. Jamal reaches into his pocket, pulls out a letter. Jamal. Effective immediately. The American Bar Association is rejecting Jamal Carter's application for early law school admission due to unconventional legal methods and concerns regarding his conduct in a courtroom setting. A wave of shocked gasps. Journalist in the crowd, whispering. "They're blocking him." Jamal nods. He was expecting this. Jamal. "See, when you beat the system once, it doesn't just let you walk away. It fights back. Harder. Dirtier." His voice hardens. Jamal. "But they made one mistake." He leans forward. The audience hangs on his every word. Jamal. "They didn't realize I'm just getting started." A dark, smoky room. A group of powerful men in suits sit around a table. Judges, prosecutors, and corporate lawyers, the people who truly run the system. At the head of the table, an older, silver-haired man exhales smoke from a cigar. Silver-haired man, gruffly. "We should have buried him when we had the chance." A younger lawyer, sharp, calculating, leans forward. Young lawyer. "Matheson got sloppy. He underestimated the kid." The silver-haired man sneers. Silver-haired man. Then we won't. We'll make sure Jamal Carter never steps foot in a courtroom again. The men nod. The system isn't done with Jamal. Jamal stands on the rooftop of his apartment building, looking out over the city. The lights flicker below. He knows what's coming. They're going to block him from law school. They're going to shut every door in his face. But he also knows something else. He's not alone anymore. He turns as a voice calls out, "You really think they're going to let you change the system?" Jamal smiles to himself. Jamal, they don't have to. I'm going to do it anyway. He clutches the letter in his fist, then lets it go. The wind carries it away. Jamal Carter isn't going to beg for a seat at their table. He's going to build his own.